And so I'll simply start with an interesting question. I think it's an interesting question. Charlie, you have investments in a lot of places like Mill Valley and Santa Barbara, and you live in Hancock Park, and sometimes you say that Pasadena is your second home, and then you have various investments around Claremont, and now investing here in Redlands. Why are you investing in Redlands? What do you think about Redlands? I mean, what is it that attracts you here? I mean, I can see a kind of pattern there: Santa Barbara, Mill Valley, Pasadena, Claremont, and Redlands. So what is it, Charlie?
Well, I have a natural prejudice for this area because when I was at Caltech in 1943, I used to hang around here. My first wife went to Scripps College, and my sister went to Scripps College. And so I'm very familiar with this area. And of course, I've interfaced with a lot of the people who love these universities out here.
Yes.
And so I started with I always liked the orange trees against the mountains and the snow cap, whatever. So I started with a deep prejudice.
Yes.
But my investments here happened by accident. What happened was I live in a neighborhood which the Hasidic Jews sort of came into a few decades ago, a very successful group of people. And one day into my house, a very young 17-year-old Hasidic Jew came by and gave me the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew. And, Munger sounds like it could be a German Jewish name. And it means peddler in both German and English. So it wasn't totally crazy for an Hasidic Jew to think that Munger could read the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew, but of course I couldn't. And I got to talking with him, and one thing led to another, and I sort of befriended Avi and watched him grow up. And Avi never went to college. He has a mild attention deficit disorder, but a ferociously high IQ. And he was worried about it. And I said, Avi, don't worry about it. You don't need any college. You're going to succeed mightily. Well, Avi is now 32 and has 4 children and a hugely successful business. And I was right. He didn't need college.
And Avi's sitting right there. Stand up, Avi.
Yeah, wave to the crowd. And Avi had a client, his main client in his apartment management business, and he was unhappy. And I think rightly so. And so I said to him one day, because I'd gotten to like and trust Avi, I said, why don't you just get rid of that client you got and buy a bunch of apartments for me? And the first ones we saw were the ones I bought out here. And that's how it happened.
And by the way, they're at the end of Alabama, those beautiful apartments. They're really amazing. Yeah.
Parkview
Terrace.
Terrace.
That's great. I think half of the occupants of those apartments work at Esri. So one day I'm sitting there and he calls me and he says, could I come out and talk to you? Of course, I didn't exactly know who Charlie was. So sure, yeah, okay. And that's what began this friendship, actually. It's amazing.
But we've had a fair amount of fun, Avi and his partner, Ruben and I. And it's kind of creative to buy old apartments and fix them up. And of course, we have a philosophy that there is no income unless the place is properly cared for. And the apartment management field is full of people who just milk the properties and do the very minimum. And that's a stupid mistake if you're a long-term investor. And Avi and I share a belief that all these things should be immediately improved. And I think in the first, year or something like that, we spent $600,000 on trees on just 4 projects.
You've got my heart right there.
Yeah. I was going to say, was that a planted question?
No,
it was not a planted
question. It was not. But
Oh, Larry.
But Jack, you're probably doing it out of love, and I know how much better it's going to work for me, so I don't deserve much credit because it's very much in my interest financially to plant all those trees. Now, I would probably plant them anyway, but I can't prove that. At any rate, that's how we came out here, and of course, I like the mountains, and I like the trees, and I like the people, and I like these good colleges. And I will admit that I didn't start out with the idea I'd picked Redlands out of the world. It's just where this apartment project that caught my attention was. But once I was here, I did not know there was an Esri company. I have made my way in life with a pencil and a pen and a calculating machine and the compound interest table, and I haven't looked at a calculus question since I was 19 years old. So I'm totally a creature of old-fashioned horse sense and a little arithmetic. And so I don't know about software companies like Esri. And so if I'd known, I would have paid more for the project.
That's good.
You know, it's a huge blessing to go into community. There's a big employer that keeps hiring and so forth. And Avi is so smart. I didn't suggest that he start giving. There are all kinds of rules in apartment house operators about guarantees of leases and down payments and what have you. And not every new employee of Esri qualifies. And Avi just took one look at the situation and he waives all those requirements for anybody that wants to work at Esri.
Thank you, Avi. I really appreciate that.
Well, but there again, he doesn't deserve any credit. That's a smart business trick. So he doesn't know whether he's being nice or being greedy. I don't. Whatever. I like these things where a confluence of two factors is working in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I happen to think I share Jack's interest in design and architecture, which is an absolute accident. My uncle was a graduate of the Harvard School of Architecture, and I am a graduate of the Harvard Law School. And I have done a fair amount of house building for myself and building projects of various kinds in my long life. And so it's kind of a hobby with me to do what Jack does sort of professionally. And so, of course, man, I see this beautiful campus and this very successful company. And I'm also a total nut on the subject that the best way to get what you want in life is to deserve what you want. And of course, if you apply that to business, that means you really take care of the customers. And it's perfectly obvious that what's happened to Esri would not have happened if it weren't terribly good at taking care of the customers. And of course, that's, again, I don't deserve any credit for doing it. I know I make more money taking care of the customers than I would if I were more short-term operating. And so I don't want to masquerade as a better fellow than I am, because since it works so well, I don't think it'd be nice if I were like Mother Teresa and do something I didn't like doing. Because I'm a noble soul, but my life is organized so that just time after time, what works for my pocketbook works for every moral teaching that I've been taught.
Yeah.
And anybody who's in such a position is very lucky. And you people who work for a company like Esri are hugely lucky too, because there are a lot of employers that are defective.